It all started a year and a half ago. My husband and I had just moved in together, and our first home was a farmhouse that we rented from his boss. Now, this house was beautiful, but it was only beautiful because my husband's boss's father had built the entire house by himself in the early 50s. The outside of it was once a stark white, but over the years, the paint had severely begun peeling, and it was slightly tilted. The house was a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom place, with a huge living room and kitchen, and a spirit larger than life. My husband's boss was named Bob, and we knew that his father had passed away in this house, but we knew that it was the bedroom toward the end of the house where he passed, so we just used it for storage. Things started getting weird in that house immediately after moving in. We would notice things in the corner of our eyes, see patches of smoke when there wasn't any in the room. But the first real scary occurrence was when we were watching The Woman in Black 2. It was about 3 in the morning, and in the country, of course, it was dead silent. At the climax of the movie, right when the movie gets silent, things got extra creepy in real life. We heard glass shatter in the kitchen next to our room. We hurried to pause the movie and stayed silent. We heard footsteps and then nothing. Freaked out because we had no animals, we opened the door, my husband Will gripping a baseball bat, just in case an intruder might be in there. We immediately noticed there was no one in there, but we did find the glass all over the kitchen and all over the kitchen table. We calmed down a bit and just chalked it up to being a freak accident. That happens sometimes, right? I remember asking myself that a lot during that time period. Well, time would go on and things stayed weird. Whenever I was washing dishes, I would always feel like someone was behind me. Whenever the toilet seat was left up, my towels on a shelf above would fall in. Eventually, and amazingly, the toilet lid would begin closing on its own. One day I was washing dishes and cleaning the kitchen when the lights went out for seemingly no reason. I remember panicking. I thought to myself, what do I do? Being a logical person, I thought in steps. These steps were necessary because we had no streetlights around the house, so it was absolutely, completely pitch black. Step 1, grab the keys on the edge of the table. Step 2, grab the jacket with the cell phone on the chair. Step 3, try to flip on the lights in the bedroom. Step 4, run out of the house. I don't know why I had that response, but I felt threatened. I completed my steps in record time, opened the door, and jumped in my car, going to my mom's until Will came home. More time went on, and one morning Will and I were lying in bed watching the news when he claims he saw the shadow of a man with a gray shirt walking through our door. Then things got even crazier. It was on a cold February night, and Will's mother came in for the weekend. We were sitting at the table, catching up, playing board games, when we heard something banging on the door. It was 2 in the morning, so I knew it couldn't be anyone we knew. I quickly got up to look through the glass square to see who was banging on the door at 2 a.m. But no one was there. I definitely did not open those doors. I remembered the warnings my grandmother had given me about invisible visitors. I didn't want to invite anything into my home that wasn't supposed to be there. That night, we also started experiencing random puddles of water in the house. We thought it might have been poor insulation, but it was an odd substance. My mother-in-law, being ever so controlling, tried cleaning it up and failed. It had this oil-like texture to it, and was practically impossible to clean, like slug juice or something. We carried on with our visit, then she went back to her hometown in Missouri. A couple of weeks later, we invited some friends of ours to hang out and drink some beers. We were all hanging out in the bedroom when we started talking about how the house was haunted. Now we were a bit intoxicated. We had an unspoken rule to never mention how haunted the house was while in the house, but we had some beers, so we got a little too chatty about it. As we began talking, the plug-in lamp we have attached to the wall starts to flicker. It flickers for what seems like a couple of minutes and then stops. Needless to say, our couple of friends never decided to visit us there again. A month after all this, we decided to move into a cheaper rent house, closer to our workplaces. As we were cleaning the place, my mom noticed a fog of smoke, and baffled, she tried to swing her arms through it and failed. It stayed there for a moment, and finally evaporated. We once again shrugged it off and continued packing and cleaning. A couple of hours later, my mom opens the front door, which is heavy oak wood, to let some air in, to relieve the smell of bleach. As she's bustling around the house, we noticed the door creak ever so softly, like it's about to slam shut. But then it stops halfway there and shuts so softly we barely hear it. A day later, Will and I were packed and ready to go. We went back to the house one last time to get the last few boxes. As we locked the door and sat in the car, we watched the first house we had lived in together. As we were staring, though, we noticed something weird. In the bedroom we had stayed in, we saw a man standing there looking out into the yard. No shadow, no fog, no apparition. We saw a solid figure of a man with gray hair and oval-shaped glasses, a gray work shirt, staring at the yard. He looked towards us, smiled, and waved. We were so speechless, we just sat there and looked. Will and I watched as this man in our house that was empty now walked away from the window. A few weeks after this, Will and his boss, Bob, were talking about the house. Bob mentioned the room we stayed in was the nicest, because it was the master bedroom. You see, that was his father's bedroom. The one he died in. The one we purposely picked to avoid the room someone died in. But that's usually how things work out, isn't it? Especially when your husband takes care of the details. To this day, it's all so vivid. I'll never forget that house, and I'll never forget what happened. And I will definitely never forget the devilish smile of that man, burning his eyes into my soul. The year was 2004 in Southern California. I was 16 years old. I'm Native American, Navajo. My grandmother was a medicine woman and at a young age was in the process of teaching me her ways. When I was a child, she always told me to not be afraid of anything I might see, that I was special. Ever since then, it was like a gate opened in me, and I began to see things and feel. I do hear them sometimes, cries and screams like whispers in my ears. This causes me to have to wear earbuds to sleep, playing some music, in order to drown them out and sleep. I've been through a lot of hauntings through my childhood, till this day, but this haunting was one that has upset me, as something attacked my mother. One day my mother came to me, and I could see she looked so drained, like she hadn't had good sleep in a long time. I asked her what was wrong, when I noticed she seemed scared. She said to me, "I'm terrified to sleep. Every night I get woke up, and I can't move at all, and all of a sudden I see something dark slowly crawling from the edge of the bed by my feet, climbing up my legs all the way to me. All I can do is cry. I feel hands on my neck starting to choke me. I try to move to wake up your dad, but nothing happens." I kept my eyes on her, listening to her story, to her every word. I'm no stranger to the supernatural, and I know ways to keep things away. This angered me that something in my family's home was hurting my mother. I tried to calm her down and assure her she would be okay. "Mom, come sleep in my room tonight. I'll stay up and watch you as you sleep, and I'll see if I can catch it. I have a little dog named Princess. She was a very good dog. She would sleep with me in my room, and she'd always growl when she felt danger, tangible or supernatural. Through the night, she would keep watch of me all the time, and she made me feel safe. That night, my mother came into my room, lay on the bed, and I told her to sleep, reminding her that I'd be here so she didn't have to worry. It was around 10 p.m. at the time, and she fell fast asleep. I stayed up right next to her, with my dog in the middle of us. The dog soon fell asleep too. At around 2 a.m., nothing had yet happened, so I got up to use the bathroom. As I was coming out of the bathroom, I looked at my bedroom door, which I kept open just in case, and a dark figure ran past inside. In my head, I thought, well, here we go. I walked back into my room and closed the door behind me. I lay on the bed and waited for anything to happen. Before long, I was getting bored, since nothing was happening. I lay on my stomach with my hand holding my head. I let out a long breath, folded my hands, and lay my head on them, facing away from the door. Not even 1 second passed, and I heard my door open. I had a quick conversation in my head, and it went something like this. Did someone else wake up? Maybe my little brother? He must have woke up. As I was saying this in my head, I felt like someone was shaking the bed, but only by our heads. They were shaking it in a way as if they were testing to see if a person was awake. I said again in my head, it must be my little brother. I better get up to see if he's okay. But when I tried to move, I couldn't at all. My head, my hands, nothing. I was completely frozen. The moment I noticed I couldn't move, I began to feel something climbing on the bed and on top of my mother. My heart began to pound, and I was thinking of what I could do. I felt something like a leg on the side of me from this thing that was on my mom. The bed felt like it was sinking in the middle, and whatever this was had its foot on my dog. My dog didn't even move either, didn't make a noise this whole time. I fought in my head, saying I had to do something. I need to. Think. At that moment, my side began to feel like it was on fire. It hurt so bad, making me lose focus on trying to think. But I endured it all. I blocked out the pain, my fear, my panic. I said to myself to pray. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't remember any prayers at the moment, nothing. I couldn't even make one up. I was blocked, so I looked at my hand that was close to my face and I tried to focus on it, saying in my head, open your hand, just open it. I tried and nothing was happening. I kept saying it over and over. It felt like hours now, but I needed to fight this and save my mom from this evil spirit. But then I felt the top of my fingers. I took that and I began to try and open my hand fully and slowly. I could feel it moving. As I felt my hand open just a bit, this thing jumped off my bed and ran out of the room. I heard my bedroom door slam shut, and as it slammed, I felt this surge go through my body, and I could finally fully move again. I looked at my mom, and she was okay. I let out a sigh of relief and tears just started flowing. My mom woke up, asking what had happened and why I was crying like that. I told her, let's get out of the room. So she and I went to the living room, and I told her everything that occurred. After that, she looked so scared. As I finished the story, we heard something that sounded like something running on hardwood. We looked up, and it was coming from the attic. But this time, it sounded like it was trying to get away. And then it was gone. We didn't know what it was that was haunting my mom, but after that night, it never came back. and my mom thanked me for helping her. We Dutch aren't really known for our folklore. Now, we have the white witches, or witte wieven, and goblins, but also things like gnomes and dwarves. This creature, however, is known as Flodder here in Holland. It is a creature that lives in all sorts of streams and jumps on your back, making you feel as if there is a literal ton of weight on your back. But when you reach civilization, it is said to jump off your back and into the nearest bit of water it can find. How it looks, though, is never really told, but I believe I've seen it. It was a cold Friday, and after work I always go to my parents to eat and spend time with my parents and sister. This is something that we just kept doing from when I lived in an apartment, because back then I didn't have my own washing machine, and I would take my clothes to their place to wash. Every Friday I do a bit of grocery shopping as well, and when I get back I need to cross a path that goes along a stream that even goes past my house that I live in now. As always, my messenger bag was filled with groceries. The snow cracked as I walked on it. I suddenly heard something in the water. The water wasn't frozen solid, but still there were no ducks, geese, or any birds in the water for that matter that could have made that sound. Sure, I was in civilization, but during the virus lockdown, a lot of creatures have ventured outside their normal habitat, since there aren't so many human interactions during a lockdown. The curfew was also still in full force, so I had to be home before 9. I noticed my bag was feeling really heavy all of a sudden, but when I swung it toward my front, all the weight seemed to be gone. Then I heard water splashing yet again, but no ripples could be seen in the nearby water. As the night went on, I could hear some sounds in the front of my house, but it was already near 11, so only crazy people would be out risking a huge fine at that hour. I went to my kitchen that has a window that looks out into the playground across the stream, and I could see something getting out of the water. It looked sleek, wet, and about a meter tall. Then it turned towards me and noticed I was looking at it. So it dove right back into the water. It went quiet after that, so I went to bed. But at around 12:30 I woke up. I was wide awake then, so I decided to head to the bathroom. When I was done in the bathroom, I heard some footsteps. Since I was already so awake, I decided to open the bedroom curtains and window. I took my phone and took a picture of the beautiful landscape. The contrast of the lights at night against the window just looked so majestic. There were a few weird noises that were near my front door, though. I have a setup where I grow my Moroccan mint plant for fresh mint tea, which my sister and mom love a lot, at the left side of my front door. As I leaned over into the opened window, I saw that creature was now gnawing on my Moroccan mint, but before I could get my phone ready to take another picture, it noticed me. It looked me straight in the eyes and began to hiss loudly. Then it ran back to the stream, giving me one last glance as I closed the window. The morning after, I found my Moroccan mint plant with marks. It looked like it had been cut with thousands of razors. I've shown people this picture, and many say they see something on the edge of the water, but personally I can't see anything out of the ordinary. Then again, I've always been terrible at finding things out of ordinary pictures, so maybe you'll see what I don't. This happened when I was in the cadets. I don't remember the exact year of this event, but I think it was over 16 years ago. And I wasn't the only one who experienced it. There were at least 30 of us cadets, and at least 10 officers. We were all in the middle of a forest in northern Saskatchewan. I was with my cadet corps, along with several other cadet corps as well. It was a basic training course that we volunteered to go on. When we arrived, I felt uneasy. but I pushed it aside and thought that I was just being nervous being away from home for several nights. Every night we were out for our training course, we slept in tents we set up. Every day was uneventful. All we did was morning parade, followed by breakfast classes, lunch, and evening parade. Then dinner, followed by some free time before lights out. But the last night we were there was the most eventful. We all heard what sounded like two women screaming, waking literally everyone up. The officers told the cadets to stay in the parade square while they went to investigate the screams. But as the officers investigated the screams, I thought I saw something run into the woods, only to stop and look right at me. It seemed to look like a person, but I could see the bones under their skin, and it also seemed to have something covering its face. I stared at it for a few seconds before I saw another one. Then suddenly the word Wendigo entered my mind. But I couldn't believe that. They both looked at me for a few more seconds, then ran off deeper into the forest. After a few minutes, the officers came back and made up a story that two female cadets were just trying to scare everyone, and that we should just go back to sleep. I didn't bring up what I saw, because I didn't want anyone to think I was crazy. Despite the Wendigo staring at me, and me being terrified, I managed to fall asleep. The following day, I found 2 pairs of claw marks leading into the woods. I continued on, curious, and soon saw 2 pairs of glowing red eyes. But then I heard my friend call my name. I turned in his direction. He asked me if I saw the claw marks, and I confirmed that I did, and he told me to stay away from those woods. As we were leaving, I saw one of those Wendigo again. I thought I heard one of them laugh as the buses drove away from the cab. Now that I think about it, I may have had an encounter with not 1 but 2 Wendigo. And that's what I'm scared about, because I know I wasn't the only one that saw them. I later learned that the friend that called me away from the woods told my sister that he also saw something in the woods, and that he was afraid to tell me because he didn't want me to overreact.